right, hello wine drinking people. We are back. It is Friday, November 12th, and it's time for what I drank yesterday. And that's right, folks, we don't see too many suppliers in November, so we've got a very abbreviated version of what I drank yesterday. But hey, we forgot to include a segment on the South African tasting, which we recorded last week, so we're going to tag that on. A lot of events going on this month, and a lot of drinking, and I don't know why I took on the responsibility of putting together a South African wine tasting for the Hollywood Wine Society. Well, I know why I did. For Jerry Bergheim and the folks at the Hollywood Wine Society, because these guys put on some incredible wine tastings, and I've been lucky enough to get invited to several of these. So when they gave me the task of putting on a South African tasting, I took this serious because I knew this would be difficult. And there's not a lot of great South African wines available here in South Florida. I'm not saying there's not a lot of great South African wines. Hey, you go to Disney, and they have a resort there that's dedicated to everything served in there is from South Africa, even in the mini bars. And they have some incredible wines made in South Africa. The problem is there's not a huge demand for them, and we don't see a lot of the stuff even leaving South Africa. The best wines they drink right there. So this would be, I knew, a difficult task. So I had to employ the help of maybe a few people. My good friend Hermes. And I know he deals with Disney, and he has one of my favorite wineries, Anura Vineyards, which we do have a few wines from Anura in the store. We don't have a lot of South African stuff, but after this tasting, I don't want to say I'm a convert, but we had some pretty great stuff. Some pretty surprisingly great stuff last night at the High Life Cafe. All right, well, we started with the Brut Method Cape Classic. I think this means Method Champenoise. Well, it's the traditional grape varietals anyways, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that are used in this. And this wine, even though it was relatively young, 2006, it kind of had older, more developed aromas in the bouquet. You notice some kind of hazelnutty kind of qualities to it, and maybe a little bit of oxidized kind of fruit notes, but still pretty nice on the palate, fresh, and a lovely creamy mousse, similar to what you would get from Champagne. We had a few Chenin Blancs to start, and when I think South African whites, Chenin Blanc is a wine that's very popular in South Africa. They call it Steen, and they have some pretty good examples here in this country, and they're pretty diverse in style. Chenin is a great variety you find in the Loire Valley, which they make Vouvray out of, and can make a fairly sweet style wine and a great dessert wine as well. So we had Spice Root, which is from the coastal region, and hey, I'm not an expert on South African wines, but coastal region to me says larger area. And this was a pretty nice wine, I would have to say. Had some nice apple and pear like fruit, kind of steely clean, maybe some melon also, but nothing earth shattering, kind of short finish. And then the Mulderbosch Chenin Blanc 08 also was not showing a lot on the nose, but hey, maybe it was a little dinky glasses that they gave us to taste these two wines in. We had two different size glasses, which to me, when you do a wine tasting, you want to have 4 of the same size glasses. At least we even reused them, but that doesn't matter. It was very nice to give us a little pitcher to rinse the glasses out with, but the first 2 wines in each flight for me did not get the respect on the nose they deserved, because we had a nice Bordeaux glass on the last 2. But still a nice wine and nicely balanced, kind of steely also, with some nice melon fruit with that, and kind of short finish as well in the Mulderbosch. The Anura, however, jumped out of the glass. Maybe it was a glass. Lovely vanilla spice, some nice hibiscus flower to that, lovely Asian pear fruit, really exotic nose. Wow. And a little bit sweet on the palate, but had nice acidity to finish up, and that lovely perfume kind of character on the finish. Really nice stuff, and it's $23.75. A beautiful bottle of Chenin Blanc. If you like stuff from the Loire Valley, you may want to check that out. And then we had a Chardonnay 2002 vintage. Wow, who would think that this is still out and released, but it's from Mulderbosch, one of the great wineries of Stellenbosch, South Africa, one of the better areas in South Africa. And this wine had this cigar box dried tobacco note on the nose, which was really unique. Kind of reminded me maybe of a little Merceau, because it had some lovely richness and fruit on the palate. But really unique. I don't know if I would pick that out as Chardonnay. All right, well, the first flight of reds, we had Glencarlew's Classic. Well, I decided to do Bordeaux varietals first, because to me the best wines in South Africa are Syrah or Syrah blends. So the Glencarlew Classic was nice, kind of like tobacco spice, very balanced, smooth, and pretty short finish, but pretty nice. And then the Blau Klippen Cabernet Sauvignon from Stellenbosch. They have some funky names here for some of these wines too. 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. This wine was very nice. Excellent quality. Black pepper spice, black earth, black plum, old world style, some gravelly minerality. A really nice bottle of Cabernet. Surprised that would be South Africa probably in a blind tasting. And next up, the Rustenburg John X Merriman. This wine was a Cabernet or Bordeaux style blend. We had two blends, the Glencarlou and this John X Merriman, and then two 100% Cabernets. This wine also really nice, had some lovely violet kind of aromas to the nose, red cherry fruit, a little more forward and fruity style Cabernet Sauvignon, but still well balanced and a really nice little wine nonetheless. And then the Ruston Verde. Wow, this is one of the great properties. If you look up in John Hatchett's book on South African wines, that's the authority on South Africa, kind of like the Robert Parker, if you will. This would be considered one of maybe the 5 top producers of South Africa, and it was a real treat to have the 1998 vintage of this wine. It just goes to show you that these wines will age, some of the best stuff. This is 100% Cabernet, really Bordeaux-like on the nose, dried herbs, and black plum, dark spices, and very soft and elegant tannins. Still had a little bit of room to grow here. I think this wine could still last in your cellar. Next up, this Syrah Flight. Like I said, these are the money wines. The best wines from South Africa to me are Syrah or Syrah blends. The Fairview, maybe a little un-Syrah-like, a little more savory style, not quite as forward and fruity, but really nicely balanced. The Columella. All right, this is Eben Sadie. He is considered to be one of the top winemakers in South Africa from Swartland, which Swartland to me says cheaper wines. I'm not an expert again on South Africa, but a lot of the cheap crap I've had has been from Swartland. And this wine, really nice, more like a Northern Rhone style, has a little Mourvedre in the blend, but dried tobacco, black plums, black earth, black spices, really big and expansive on the palate. You know, it's kind of ironic. We had another Eben Sadie wine next, the Sequillo, which is a similar blend with a little Grenache added in, but totally different in style from the same vintage. A lot more savory, lighter, more tobacco-y, and really interesting wines. Both of those, two of my wines of the night. The Columella kind of edged it out. But and then the Bokenhutslof, and that's, bless you, the chocolate block wine, which this was a lot of people's favorite. When you talk to the group at the end of the night, really lovely kind of spiced bouquet, also a blend, and black raspberry, kind of violet notes on the nose, really exotic, and a dark chocolate kind of note. Maybe that's why they call it the chocolate box. But a lot of people's favorite in that flight, and maybe a few people's favorite of the night. And then I had to do it, folks. I had to pour Pinotage, and it's not recommended. It's a grape varietal that should have never been created. Some mad scientist in South Africa crossed Pinot Noir and Carignan, and then stabbed the South African flag in it and said, this is the national grape of South Africa. Well, the Fairview and the Anura, neither one of them to me very impressive, and the reason why I don't have Pinotage in the store because I don't want to drink it. So, you know, my mama told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. All right. Next up, we have the best of the best, which the Hamilton Russell Pinot, to me, had always been one of the best Pinots. This is from Walker Bay, a coastal region, and a little cooler area, which Pinot Noir, we know, is better in a cooler area. But this wine had this incredibly smoky nose. And I don't know whether it was just because it was so young, it was a little bit disjointed. Not one of the wines of the night tonight. One of the rules I live by, taste the wine. And unfortunately, I haven't tasted this one in a few vintages. And I don't know if it's one of my picks for best Pinot Noirs of the year, or from South Africa, from anywhere. Next up, the Ernie Els, which I just had the winemaker for Ernie Els in last week. Those of you that saw those reviews know the best wines I have had from South Africa ever, and this wine also showed to me as the wine of the night last night. And the little Goutte d'Or dessert wine we had was okay, but check out the Ernie Els, folks, if you want to check out something exceptional from South Africa. But that was actually a week ago from today. But hey, you know, we've always got something open in the store, man. And it's the holiday season. So, you know, you guys come in here, you want to, you know, shop for some wine. You can have a glass of wine while you're shopping. And we get suppliers to just drop stuff off for us this time of year. Tamer, thank you very much from Indigenous Selection. Just left us several bottles of wine yesterday. One of my favorite producers from Montalcino, Ciacci Piccolimini, his 2007 Rosso di Montalcino, a great little wine, a lot of lovely fresh red berry fruit, strawberries, and that wild strawberry, the little baby ones, you don't really see too often, just really intense fruit, and some that typical dusty, kind of mushroomy earthiness you get from Tuscan wines, but lovely freshness and fine acidity coming through on the finish. A great little Rosso di Montalcino, $27 a bottle. And then La Spinetta, the Gallina, the single vineyard Barbera from Alba, two main towns that they make Barbera in the Piedmont, Alba and Asti. A lot of people feel like Asti is better. The Alba wines tend to me to be a little more fruit forward, maybe not quite as much structure, and this wine has got some lovely black raspberry, blackberry fruit, and this distinct floral and herbal quality to the nose that La Spinetta's Barberas have speak volumes about where they come from. The Piedmont, very lovely acidity in this wine, also a real mouthful. These Barberas will last 10 years or more in their cellar. The 05, a great vintage from the Piedmont from La Spinetta. And then we had the 07 Nebbiolo Langhe. These is the young vines from the Star Dairy Vineyard. So unlike some Nebbiolo Langhes, this wine doesn't come from just any, area in the Langhe. It comes from Barbaresco, in particular the Star Dairy Vineyard, my favorite Barbaresco that Giorgio Rovetti does. And these are the young vines. He does not put the grapes into his first wine until they get to be at least 25 years old. This wine has got lovely bright red cherry fruit to it, lovely fresh flowers, a little bit hint of that tar and truffle note, and again speaks volumes about where it comes from, and great backbone to this wine. This is a wine you could keep also 5-7 years easily in your cellar, but hey, a wine that is drinking beautiful tonight, and $25 a bottle, man. That's my everyday wine from the Piedmont. All right, that's not enough for me. I mean, just these 3 wines. That's just what I tasted in the store. We had a little Gosset Brut Excellence left over from our champagne tasting at the Tower Club Tuesday. I think I forgot to review that too. Wow, for someone that didn't have a lot to talk about for what he drank yesterday, I'm finding more and more as the show goes on. But Brut Excellence is their entry level, kind of the champagne that defines Champagne Gosset. And this wine had been open for 2 days in my fridge and really started to take on some lovely character, some hazelnut, some biscuity qualities. I say champagne is a fine wine, and you need to keep them open and aerate them just like other fine wines. They're much better, I find, after they're open a day or 2 in the refrigerator. This wine, obviously the bubbles are going to diminish a little bit, but still had a little hint of bubble and some lovely fresh acidity, keeping the wine balanced. Still lovely on its 3rd day open. We got a great price on that, on sale for the holidays for $27 and change. All right, and then the Pally Wine Company, the Dutton Ranch. All right, thank you, Robert Barnes, for sending us the 1 case out of 4 that came into South Florida. A beautiful wine. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say anything about that. But we're probably all gone at this point. But hey, the Sonoma Coast for $17, $18 and change, whatever we have it on sale for, one of the best values in the Pinot Noir section, and we love the screw-on cap, easy access. You don't have to pull the car over to open it up. All right, and then hey, you know me, man, I love Barolo. And I am drinking Barolo at least 1 or 2 nights a week, and I figured it's time to open up the 2006 La Sera from Marcarini, a classic Barolo maker. What does that mean? You can tell just by looking at these wines. They're Barolo, light in color. You put them in your mouth, big, heavy tannins. This 2006 vintage, a classic vintage in the Piedmont. You get some of that black tar, that spice, that truffle, and again, the heavy tannins that come across on the finish in Nebbiolo. A fantastic little wine. Went pretty good with a barbecued chicken. But, hey, Pinot Noir, especially a big California Pinot, a little bit of sweetness, really nice with barbecue. And that's what I had to drink last night, folks. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.